I see a lot of clients will tend to replicate things that they already know without necessarily thinking about what I said before in terms of how you move through the space and how you want things to work. And I'm getting a little bit architectural technical here, but people tend to come to me and are like, oh, this is a terrible drawing, but it's sort of what we look like, what we want, and it'll just be like little blobs of stuff together. And I'll tell you a secret, architects do that as well. So that's normally where we start, and it's actually called a bubble diagram. So you're doing the right thing, it's fine. Any amount of visual information or thought process that you can give to your designer, your builder, is fantastic, so don't be worried about it. But the idea is you effectively say, this is a bedroom and I want an ensuite next to it. Okay, but I want this bedroom to be far away from the kitchen space because we have a shift worker who needs to sleep during the day, and I don't want to be, cooking lunch or whatever on a Saturday while they're trying to sleep right next door. Those sorts of things. Or if you do have a house with teenagers in it, you might want them right at the back of the house, and you have your bedroom a little bit larger, so it's a personal escape to get away from the gaming or the loud music or the pool party or whatever's going on. So basic, just circles, and you do them different sizes and see how that they connect to different areas. It's really, really a good, useful start. And again, the more you go through this process, the more criteria you have to choose the right plan or to take it to a designer to get them to develop for you. Another thing is grouping services, which again is a little bit technical, but I mean, you can do it quite easily. And what I mean by that is, if you group all your bathrooms together and have them back to back, then it's much easier for the plumbing. It's generally, not always, but generally cheaper, much easier to maintain. Whereas if you had a bathroom down here and then a bathroom up here and then a kitchen over here, that's a lot of pipe work, that's a lot of connecting, and if something goes wrong later, then it's a lot of stuffing around. Whereas if you had bathrooms back to back and then a kitchen nearby, then it's much easier to build and adjust. Similar sort of thing with air conditioning and things like that. So if you've got all of your, if you're imagining bathroom, kitchen, you have all of this space, which is all your services, all your ducting and things can go around the outside, as opposed to if you've got 1, 2, 3 and they're all connected in between, it can be a total nightmare. So trying to keep things simple and grouping services is also a really good tip. You don't have to, but if you can, try and do it. Another thing, now this sort of depends on the size of your site and what your council requirements are. I did do a video a little while ago about council requirements and how to find out what your setbacks are and things like that. So check out our YouTube page or our Facebook page for those as a refresher. But if you've got a very narrow site, you really are restricted with your orientation. But if you do have a little bit of room to move, thinking about the orientation of your plan is very, very important. So I'm talking about where the sun rises, where the sun sets, where the breezes go, which side of the building do you want the sun to rise? Do you want it to rise over the lounge room or over your bedroom? Do you want to see the sunset from your patio? That sounds great. But in the middle of summer, do you want to be outside entertaining? So that might mean you need bigger eaves over that side. My parents' house is actually orientated in a weird angle in respect to the front boundary. So their actual block is rectangular and their house is like this, because it's east-west, and they're in Darwin, so you want to get as many nice cool breezes as possible. So they get beautiful breezes cross flow through the whole house in the middle of the wet season. So it's perfect. And kudos to them, they did that in the 80s. So yeah, forethought. But if you can think about those sorts of things, do, especially if you're talking about Brisbane or up north. You want to be making sure you get as many cool breezes as possible. If you're more temperate climate, so further south, try and think about where your north-facing part of your house is, because generally the way that the sun works, during summer it's up higher, and then during winter it goes down lower. So if you're in the colder parts, you want to try and expose that northern face to get as much sun in as possible. Again, this is the type of thing I'll be talking about a little bit more later in our next video about sustainability and things you can do in the different climates to just make that work for you a little bit more. And actually, you know what? If you can post in the comments which town or city you're in, then we might be able to just go through and make a few comments about types of things you need to think about. But we'll also put in the comments, should be going in, there's 2 links to some great websites where you can actually have a look at your specific area. So the Bureau of Meteorology is completely awesome with all of their data. So they have what's called wind roses. And no, they don't have petals, they're just called wind roses. Don't ask me why. But they show morning, afternoon, wind directions in specific places over Australia, and they're really good for working out if you want wind in summer and don't want wind in winter, or dry season, wet season, depending on which part of Australia you're from. So you can actually see quite specific for your area what orientation you should have your windows if you want to get crossflow. There's also a sunrise and sunset link that we're going to post as well, so you can have a look as per wherever your site happens to be.